And welcome to Light Years. The epic countdown is my favorite. Like, it's just way too long, going from 20, 30 seconds the whole way. Sitting in for Andy Liu, friend of the show. I got Tommy here. You know, some of you may know him, others of you may not. Most of you will hate him afterwards. No, what's up, man?
Absolutely. Sam, thanks for having me on, man. It's been way too long since I've hopped on a podcast of any type, especially light years. So happy to be here. Happy the Dubs got an easy win as they should have. And let's roll. Let's talk about it.
So I feel like there's two discussions to be had. So we'll start here. Kings sat everyone. What was your overall thought on that? Because I have thoughts on why they sat everyone.
Honestly, I think they've been pretty lucky with their health all year. Monk missed a couple games recently, and it was like the first time they were really missing one of their big players. I really don't think it was that much like seedings maneuvering.
Right.
It might have been Mike Brown doing Steve a little bit of a favor, like doing his former boss a little bit of a favor. But besides that, I don't think the Kings really care who they play, because I think the Warriors or the Lakers or even the Clippers are a pretty tough matchup for them. So either way, you're playing a team with superstars. I don't think it really matters.
So my thought is they probably want the Clippers of all the matchups, but they can't really control it. But what they can control is, look, if they're going to play the Warriors, they don't need to show their hand a week ahead of time. The last time the Warriors played the Kings was obviously before New Year, and I want to say it was in November.
I think it was the game where Steph went for 47. I'm pretty
sure.
I
want to say it was his back. Like, I'm trying. It was deep.
They played 3 times in the first 15 games. I'm pretty sure.
Which is to say, if you're the Kings, you're like, we aren't the same team we were back then. They aren't either. But like, why give them a free look at who we are, especially in a game that doesn't matter? So I get it. You know, like, we can all play conspiracy theories about them ducking things, but it's just kind of, at this point, they had a great season. They can play their games right now. And so, you know, kind of a frustrating game in general, other than the fact that Looney is a god at this point. Could we talk about Looney a little bit right now?
It feels like basically in any big game now, he's going to get 15 rebounds. I don't want to throw out like a Dennis Rodman comparison, but in terms of just the rebounding, it's getting towards that level. And you want to talk about a guy who took coaching well, and you know, Dayon came in, and obviously I think it's pretty much a night and day difference since Looney started working with Dayon in terms of basically his rebounding and his finishing. You know, Loon lost a lot of athleticism between kind of the end of the dynasty run, you know, the KD run, and then 2021, 22. But his finishing has improved, and his rebound is just a whole nother level. He was never a rebounder like this before Dayon started working with him.
So Draymond like always makes the joke that the playoffs are the Warriors Invitational, and I'm just like, yeah, it's the playoffs. It's where every big man gets run off the court except for Looney.
It's gonna happen again, man.
It is. Like, honestly, like, you start running through it, and if the Warriors end up playing Sabonis, that's going to be rough for him, having to figure out how to guard Steph Curry in a pick and roll. Meanwhile, Looney's going to be able to hang in there against De'Aaron. Like, obviously, Fox is going to get some stuff, but, you know, just the quintessential 16-game player. His game translates to any environment, and is he the best contract in the NBA? I think he is at this point.
He's right there. And I think one of the funniest things about him is like a guy like Chimezie Metu can like get him for a couple of minutes and kind of cook him, but then he'll get stuck on the perimeter against De'Aaron Fox or a Malik Monk, and he'll totally hold his own. It's a weird thing that happens with him where a quick post can kind of get him in a small space, but out in big space, he always handles himself, and he's always able to switch on the guards and do what he needs to do.
Yeah. I mean, so like at this point, I feel like the general NBA consensus, like Steph Curry's, you know, top 10 all time consensus. And then the core gets their love because they've won, at least anyone who's like being honest. It is just like, you know, you always have to worry about those guys because they've won for a decade. But Looney tends to be the one that, like, you know, they drafted Wiseman. They've made so many efforts. Meanwhile, this guy's like actually turned into the center version of Iguodala in some ways.
How many times have they tried to replace him? How many times have they tried to replace him at this point?
Right? Yeah.
It's been like 4 or 5 at least. And every time he just continually shows his value. And every time that we start a game without him, if we bring him off the bench, I feel a little bit less secure about how we're going to start the game.
And the chat brings up Loon always plays hard.
Always.
And I don't want to like be mean to the chat, but it's like sometimes I feel like because he's so earnest and like unassuming, people just think of him as an effort guy. And I'm like, no, he's like, there's not a lot of players who both have like the intelligence and the ability to actually adjust in real time to playoff game plans and make an adjustment. So it's like, in some ways, it reminds me of how like Draymond always gets like undersold when they're like, he's the heartbeat of the team. It's like, yeah, but you're underselling the talent part of it too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think, Steve has pointed it out a lot about how smart Loon is. It's not just that he plays hard; he's incredibly smart. He is on that Draymond, Andre Iguodala type of level in terms of basketball smarts. He's just so limited physically that he's not always able to show it. But there have been times this year, and Draymond has been tremendous, I think, this year for the most part, especially considering kind of the hand they were dealt. But there's times this year where I feel a little bit more secure with Looney in the game. He's become such a solid and consistent force for this team that whenever he's on the floor, I feel better about things. I feel like if we're winning, we're not going to lose the lead. And if we're losing, we have a chance at kind of building a little bit of a comeback.
You sound like Steve Kerr because he literally said Loon is a stabilizing force. But it's true. Like it's funny because like Iguodala was Steve's kind of, stabilizing player and kind of the guy he always went to, the young guys are being crazy. In that case, it's like Steph and Clay and those guys. I can trust Iguodala to settle everyone down and get us into our sets. And as he gets old, and I don't know if he's ever going to play again, honestly, that sort of thing. You're like, that's a lost thing. That's never truly going to be Draymond. Draymond does a billion things, but he's not like the calm stabilizing force guy.
No.
And they get it out of Looney, who's, kind of slow, kind of an undersized side. Like, it's funny in some ways that's where they got it from. Like, the player you least expected to be the Andre Iguodala replacement ended up being the Andre Iguodala replacement.
Steph and Dre were kind of out of their minds to start this game. They were throwing the ball over the yard. They weren't focused. And Looney got like 3 or 4 offensive rebounds, just calmed everybody down and made sure the game didn't get out of hand early. I think something that's a little bit underrated, or not underrated, but probably not discussed enough about the core.
Sure.
Just Steph, Clay, and Dre. They're amazing players, but they are kind of by nature very high variance. You know what I mean? Like their performance can go up and down. You expect them to always be there in the big moments, but there's nights where it's like, what are they doing? They just lose their mind. So you need that kind of low variance, stabilizing force around those guys to make sure that on those nights where they are losing their mind, you have that guy who's going to calm everything down and get them back to kind of an equilibrium.
Yeah. And it's a perfect personality for the team. And it just works. And at a certain point, I just sit here and go, there's not really a dollar. There's not a number you can put on him, really. Because he makes Steph, he makes Clay, he makes Draymond better. And he fills the gaps in ways that are not necessarily easy to fill. It reminds me so much of Iguodala. Like we're now dancing in circles around it. So
yeah, he'll never be, I guess, as talented as Andre, but
right.
You can, and he might not ever approximate like the high ceiling impact that an Andre once had, but in terms of just all that other stuff that Andre brought, the stabilizing and just being the guy that Kerr always knew he could count on, Loon's all of that. And he's only 27? It doesn't make sense sometimes, but he should have 3, 4, 5, 6 more years at this level of play.
Yeah. 24 turnovers tonight, season record. You can always count on that one. Once you knew the opponent was like, this is the most predictable thing on earth. In retrospect, when you saw Sack was sitting everyone, I was like, it's going to be a frustrating game. Which is why, you need someone like Looney a little more. I feel like we should pivot to general right now. So the Warriors won. The Lakers have won. The Pelicans won. And so we're entering Sunday with kind of a clean scenario in terms of The Warriors need to win to avoid the play-in, as far as I'm concerned. The Clippers also have to win because they run the risk of falling into the play-in if they don't win. So if both those teams win, the Warriors are in the 6th seed. If the Clippers lose and the Pelicans win or the Lakers win, the Warriors – sorry. Let me get this right. Okay. Yeah. If the Clippers lose and the Pelicans win, the Warriors will somehow move up to the 5 seed. Is that correct?
Yep.
That's the one scenario. In theory, you want to avoid if you think the Warriors should be in the 6th seed. So let's start there. Do you actually have a preference between the Kings and the Suns?
In round 1, I'd say yeah, just because we don't know what Wiggins is going to look like. I think Wiggins is going to obviously be essential for a Suns matchup because we're going to need him for 30 to 35 minutes a night to guard Durant. Mm-hmm. Deeper in the playoffs, if Wiggins gets to the level that we know he can be at, I'm not worried about the matchup. Honestly, I think we actually match up very well with the Suns. They can't punish our lack of size, and we have guys to throw at all their guys. You have Wiggins for Durant, you have GP2 for Book, you have Dante for Book. I mean, you can go down the list. It's kind of a nice matchup for the Warriors, but we don't know what Wiggins is going to look like. So if you're asking me to pick, of course I'm gonna pick the Kings. They have less talent. Just overall in terms of kind of high level talent, they have less. The Kings have had an amazing year. I'm not trying to take anything away from them. They've been maybe the best story in the NBA. But if you're asking me to pick, I'm going to pick to play the Kings first. And now, like you said, the Clippers are locked in. They have to win their next 2 games or they risk falling into the play-in. So no matter they play tomorrow, they play the Blazers tomorrow, and then they play the Suns, I believe, on Sunday. So they're forced to win both those games. The Warriors obviously have to win on Sunday too. And if it all plays out like that, then the Warriors are the 6. So as long as the Clippers handle business and the Warriors handle business, they'll be playing the Kings on April 15th or 16th, however it shakes out.
Let me take this to a different direction. Who do you think the Suns want? Because they didn't play, just to set the preface for anyone listening to this, they sat everyone against the Lakers. They gave the Lakers an easy win. The Lakers kind of did the same thing the Warriors did, which was like, got flat, right?
I mean, the Lakers were losing for 3 quarters, so it was a little bit more flat than the Warriors.
Yes, it was a little more flat, but you get what I'm saying. In theory, the Suns don't have to sit people on Sunday if they don't want to.
I think the Suns probably prefer the Clippers at this point, and that's only because we don't know where PG's at. They're the only team really missing one of their star players. I mean, even if they could actually pick, maybe the Pelicans, because the Pelicans might not have Zion for the entire first round.
With the news today, it doesn't sound like he's coming back at all.
No. I mean, it's an amazing player, but he's just never healthy. Anyway, that sidebar. But I think it's got to be the Clippers, right? Because how many guys they really have to throw at KD and Book without PG? You still have a lot of wings, but not. You probably don't have enough.
Well, I mean, and they're also dealing so you brought up, and I've made the same point, but it's like, okay, I would prefer the Warriors to play a team that doesn't have all world small forward in round 1 because Wiggins is going to need some games to get his legs under him in all likelihood. Like there is always the scenario where he's back to playoff Wiggins within 2 games, but being realistic, I don't think that's what's going to happen. If you're the Suns, you're probably looking at the same way. No matter how much we love our team, they haven't actually played enough games together. We'd rather have the soft start to get our legs under us before we have to get into the dirtier matchups the later you go on.
Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised the Suns totally sat their guys tonight. I would have thought they would have preferred some reps. I get it. That's the second end of a back-to-back, but they've played, 8 games together? Mm-hmm. You kind of – and – Book and KD and CP are all amazing players, but you still need to play together a little bit. You can't just you're not going. On paper, it looks great, but you're not just going to drop into the playoffs and be the best team in the league if you played together 10 times. It's just not realistic.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, they're also, I guess, holding their hand a little bit. If I had to guess, I would agree with you. The Clippers. I guess their power rankings would probably be the Pelicans because it's highly unlikely Zion comes back. So you're just talking about a young, gritty team, but ultimately lacking high-level talent. Then probably the Clippers. Kawhi's obviously awesome, but without Paul George, there's questions on that team. Yeah. Probably then it's Lakers or Warriors that they want to deal with. So I don't know. They could. I guess if you think that's the case, they'll probably sit everyone on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, you would think they at least consider it. Maybe they get their guys a half of play and then they sit everybody. But I mean, actually, the Clippers won't be in this scenario. I was thinking they could sit guys, but they're not going to be able to because the teams behind them are still at the
because everyone
going to have to win. So
I mean, that's kind of the thing I appreciate about the way the NBA is scheduling it now. Everyone plays at the same time, so there's less like. I mean, look, you can get a text which is like they're up 40. Pull your guys, But it's like if that happens, it's mid-game. So
it's going to be crazy. I mean, there's going to be. I think the Wolves could still somehow slide up to 8 or 9, maybe not. They might have 41 losses now, but it's going to be all these games are going to be happening at once, and seeds 5 through 8 are actually still open. You would expect the Warriors to win. You would expect, I think you'd expect the Lakers to win, but besides that, Minnesota's going to play really hard. They're going to give the Pels a good game, and then Phoenix and LAC, you don't really know who's going to sit or who's going to play.
So just to put that in context, the Wolves play the Spurs tomorrow, which you assume is a win. If they beat which puts them in a situation where if they beat the Pelicans on Sunday, they can slip into 7-8, which they probably want to do. So it creates a scenario. It's like that Office, like where everyone's like got the guns up and like, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So it's like everyone wants to get cute with it, but it's like you got to take care of business 1 before you worry about business 2 and 3. So
right. I mean, look, the Warriors are in a good position. All you have to do is win on Sunday, and you're in the playoffs, and that's really all you can ask for. Right? With this core, you take your chances against anybody. You do. I mean, you'd rather play the Kings, but if you end up having to play the Suns, that's fine too. You get a week off. I mean, I think Steph and Dre in particular look very tired. I think they could really use a week off. Steph, I want to say, only shot 14 times tonight, and it looked like he took a good amount of effort to get those 14 shots off. He gave enough. Clay was huge, obviously, off of 4 days rest. He played really well. But, I mean, Draymond just looked kind of out of it. He still made enough plays to help them win, but they just look tired, man. It's been a long season. And besides just Draymond playing most of the games, like it's just been, from an emotional standpoint, it's been a lot this year. They've gone through a ton of shit. And some of it self-inflicted and some of it just kind of happenstance. So this whole team can use a week off. If you get the week off, you take it and then you play who you play.
How confident do you feel entering the playoffs? Let's assume. Let me paint the picture. Let's assume what we've played out happens. They beat they beat the Blazers on Sunday. Everyone kind of falls into line. They end up with the 6th seed, which is kind of the best case scenario.
I think it'll be a spirited 5 or 6 game effort from the Kings, but they'll ultimately lose. The Kings will, not the Warriors. I feel pretty confident in that matchup. Suns, I'd be a little bit less confident just because we don't know where Wiggins is at, and I think he's more essential for that matchup than he is for a Kings matchup. He still matters in a Kings matchup, obviously, because he's a good player, and you want him there for 30 minutes a night. And if not, you're relying on Kuminga a little bit. You're relying on a lot of small lineups, which doesn't hurt you as much.
You're very small on the perimeter, but yeah.
And that doesn't hurt you as much against the Kings. And then even in the playoffs, I think it hurts you actually a little bit less. The 4-guard lineups hurt you a little bit less in playoff scenarios than they do in the regular season. But I feel like regardless of how Wiggins looks, unless he's just terrible, they beat the Kings in 5 or 6 games. I think it'll be competitive. It'll be fun. But ultimately, the Warriors would come out on top. And then hopefully Wiggins is ready by round 2 and you have Memphis, I guess. We don't know what's happening there, by the way. I think Ja did something to his hand tonight. I'm not sure if he finished that game, but I know in the first half he hurt his hand. So that 2-7 matchup.
Too early to say. Also, like, I don't know. The Lakers, I'm not sure what I think of them, to be honest with you. Mostly because LeBron, like, the team construct makes sense. It's a different conversation. We don't need to get into it.
No.
Yeah. Let's move forward. Should we get to some goons here?
Let's do it.
Let's get a tie up here. Ty, what's up, my man?
Dude, the bucket hat and the glasses?
Yeah. Been a long day. Been a long day. Had to shave my eyes and shit.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's up, man? What'd you think of the game tonight?
I I think it just kind of reinforced how much I'd rather play the Suns in the first round. I'm just kind of like on the complete opposite. Yeah,
okay.
I fully acknowledge and concur that the Suns, from a basketball point of view, are going to be harder to beat 4 times in 7 games, given the current construct and health of our team, than the Kings. My issue comes in when I look at from a physically taxing point of view. Our guys are 35, 33, 32. And the Suns are going to be a high octane offense, going to run a shit ton, nitrous oxide. And then to follow that up with either the Grizzlies or Lakers, that 1-2 combo, as far as the physical side of it, I think would be tougher than.
You mean the Kings?
The Kings and Grizzlies back to back. Say we play the Kings. I think we would beat the Kings 5-6 games, whatever it is. But it would be a hard fought. Like Sabonis would give Draymond like 6 elbows to the ribs. Like D Fox is putting real pressure on GP2's like ligament and core and stuff like that. And then you got to deal with the dirtiest player in the league, Dylan Brooks, and then Ja is just a shit ton to handle even for Gary and Kuminga and shit. So like I said, the Suns, that's a tougher team, but it's a less physically tough matchup. And if you're telling me that the Suns are going to like out methodically jumper the Warriors, all right, I'll take your money for sure.
Especially when it's 2 versus 3s. I hear you there.
Come on now. Mid-range
I like
the Splash Bros. Come on now.
I like that take. I hadn't thought about it that way, but you do bring up a point. The Kings are going to run the Warriors ragged. And it's not that the Warriors can't win that matchup. It's just tiring. Meanwhile, am I really going to be afraid of Devin Booker 18-footing me to death?
39-year-old Chris Paul? All right, whatever.
Yeah,
I acknowledge that the Suns would be easier to play later on just because the later you get, the less likely Chris Paul will still like have functioning knees. But like
it'd be an assistant coach by May 12th.
Yeah. Who's he guarding? Like who?
Yeah, I mean the Kings are gonna, especially the first 2 games, because they'll be at home. They're gonna play like the building's on fire. That place is gonna be crazy.
On the flip side, and I've brought this point up before, the one team who can dull their home court advantage is the Warriors, just because you can't compete with geography. Like honestly, like half my friends I grew up with who are Warrior fans live in Sacramento. It's a real thing. We're talking about, 80-mile difference. It's just, there's no way to actually legislate that out of it. You're just dealing with the reality you live in a joint region, which is something we would never have to deal with the Suns, with the Grizzlies, with any of those other teams where it's like, yeah, they're going to come to town. There's going to be those 5 fans in section 102, and then it's just all going to be us,
That's right.
And I would think, the Kings had some crazy playoff crowds back in the early 2000s, but I would think last 10 years, the Warriors subsection of fans in Sacramento has grown. I couldn't see how it hasn't, just because of what's happened. So.
Also, it's just, again, you can't control it. Like the Kings have always been nuts, but their fans have always been into it. But like, it's such a mingled geographic area. Like, Warrior fans aren't going to not be able to get to the game. Like, there's no way for a season ticket holder to be like, whoa, I'm not going to sell this to you. I saw you tweet that you're a Warriors fan. I guess someone could, but
you could leave. You could leave after work at 5 p.m. and maybe get there by tip off.
Exactly.
It would be close, especially getting out of the Bay over to Sac. But like, you might be able to do it. It's close enough.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where it will automatically hurt their ability to sell tickets. Like there's just no other way around it. And by the way, it would probably go the other way too. Like, there's Kings fans who live in the Bay, and if they played, like, Chase would be like, I don't know, 15% less crazy for the same reason. So
yeah. And it seemed like ticket prices already went up a little bit in Sac just based on tonight. Like the ticket prices were higher than normal. So you might be pricing out some of those people that are normally going to Sacramento games.
One of my so like obviously I went to Davis and I've said it before, and like I have friends who are obviously from the area and who are Kings fans, and I was texting my buddy. He's like, I really want to go, but I don't know that I can justify $700. to go to
maybe watch the
this is sorry, De'Aaron Fox is not a $700 lower bowl player. That's what he said.
I mean, I think upper bowl is going to be 300-400 minimum, right?
Yeah,
for a round 1 playoff game.
Yeah, and it's we'll see how it plays out. But anyway, you slice it, I just don't think they want that. I don't think they want that matchup. They can be damned for me saying it.
Yeah.
100%. The comments that the Kings wanted the Warriors was really funny. It has shades of we want Bama. Like,
yeah. Come on, man. Okay.
All right.
Be careful what you wish for. Like the definition of be careful what you wish for.
Right. But the travel thing, as far as the physicals, isn't like that's definitely true too. Because then you're getting an offset. Like you're not having to guard De'Aaron Fox, but you're flying all the way to Phoenix and back versus, it's interesting. Either way, though, I feel very, very confident. Like Wiggins is back. We got Gary back. The alleged is balling. It is what it is.
Hey, man, how good was Gary tonight?
Man, brought back old memories, man. Good stuff.
The game could have kind of slipped away when I think it was 14 and he made like that chase down block and hit the corner 3. He was like, this could get interesting. And then he makes an impact play like that. It's immediate 5-point swing and the game's over.
Yeah.
Ty, talk me through your confidence level with Wiggins returning.
So here's my thing, right? Like, I feel like we got like a weird video. It was the ratio. It was like a 16:9 video. It was like shot vertically, so he looked like Slender Man, and everybody was like he had no muscles. And I was like, oh man, this looks crazy. But I don't know. I feel like Wiggins' role this year is so ancillary on both ends, with Klay taking that step back to where he was offensively. That focus on defense. You can give us that same 29% from 3 that you gave us in the finals, and I think we'll be fine. We just need that extra body just to make shit happen. And even though we're small, even smaller than we were last year, outside of the Lakers, who's taking advantage of that?
Not even Memphis this year, because they don't have Clark or Adams. Adams might be back for the playoffs, but who knows?
Right.
No, but I think you're 100% correct in terms of we really don't need his scoring as much as we did last year.
Yeah.
We need the defense, the rebounding.
You need him to be able to hit an open shot.
For sure.
I don't think they need his shot creation at all. And last year they kind of needed him to bail out possessions at times.
Game 5 of the finals. They needed it.
Yeah. And no way around it. So it does paint a picture where if he can just get his head locked in, it's all not that big a deal.
So not to be controversial, but do you think, given that we're on the other side of the Wiggins like ultimate PTO excursion, like, do you think the Warriors handled it right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, here's let me take this one, Tommy. You don't have to touch it. He's back with the team, and the team is happy with him. Ultimately, you have to sell me that there was a better way to handle it that would get him back. Other than what it is. Like, would I have liked more transparency? Sure. Would I have liked people to have lived in reality during the whole thing and like not acted like it was completely normal? Yes. But the team was able to get the result which ultimately mattered to them, which was getting their player back in a scenario which was positive for the team's ultimate goal. So you can't really be all that mad about it. Now, if he plays poorly, like, sure, can we second guess it? But like, I just have a hard time imagining if he plays below the standard he set last year, the answer was like being harder on him.
Yeah, I'm probably with you there. I know there were a lot of calls for like fines and disciplinary stuff, but like, we live in America, and one of the things about that is like, if you're super rich, like a couple of fines aren't probably going to be the most motivating thing. So like, I don't know that there was
hit him with a speeding ticket. Like, come on, man.
Right? Yeah, right. Exactly. Like
the team handled it correctly.
I think so,
the team did what they should have. That's not really the question in my mind, but I don't want to jump into all of it. It is what it is, man. It is what it is. I'm very, very glad he's back. I hope he looks remotely like he did in the last playoffs, and then I'll feel very, very confident about everything.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Ty, appreciate you. And keep moving.
Anytime, man.
Let's get. Oh no. I've clicked the wrong stream. I'm gonna move it forward. There you go.
Hey.
There he is.
Ryan, what's up, man?
Nothing much. I was listening to the Andre pod, and Tommy texted me to hop on, so here I am.
Are you like joining us from a dorm room? Where are you at?
I am in my bedroom.
Okay.
Yeah, there's just nothing on the walls, you know.
Gotcha.
What's it called? I was watching, and Andre apparently doesn't have a cast in this. Is he like further along than they're telling us? Because he does not have a cast in this.
They said
it's possible.
They said 4 weeks for a reevaluation, and that was on, I want to say, the 20th or 21st of March. I was looking at it earlier today. So he gets reevaluated like a game or two into the first round.
Right.
So, and if it's healing correctly, I would assume he's been conditioning because it's just a wrist. So it's not like it's limiting him from conditioning at all. So I think there's a chance he's back by the end of round one. We'll see. They need all the bodies they can get at this point, especially in the front court. So if he can come back by the end of round one,
it's worth noting it's his non-shooting wrist. So
it's huge.
It's just like I go 50-50 with it. Like on the one hand, everything about the injury suggests it should not hold him back and he should be back quick. On the other hand, he's older than me and I'm old as fuck. And
you took the words out of my mouth.
And he's had a hard time, like holding his body together in general too. So, it's just like he's going to come back and injure something else at the same time. But maybe I need to separate those two thoughts, right?
Does anybody? When did he get hurt? Was it the and one layup?
It was the and one layup.
Okay, that's what I thought because everybody kept saying it was the dunk. It was the and one where he fell and kind of like
literally he needs to never approach the rim.
He just needs to like stand at the top of the key and do the Draymond traffic cop stuff on offense.
It's so funny because I think he was like a plus 16 in like 12 minutes in that game.
He was amazing.
He was playing so well. That's the funniest part of all of it. Like it was kind of frustrating giving him a roster spot all year, and then he only plays like 8 games. But the 8 games that he played in, he was so good. You can't even argue against it. He just gets it, man. He could play till he was 45 if his body would let him.
He came off like a neck injury.
He said that like 5 times too. He's like, I could play this game forever because it's so easy. And I'm just like, yeah, your body's not going to let you though.
He came off a neck injury in the finals and hits a corner 3 his first play in the game. I was like, okay, Andre. And then this year he was like a plus 12 in that Laker game after not playing for 2 months. He just gets how to make winning plays at correct times, and having him as the backup to Draymond is invaluable, especially with no Otto. Just having another guy who could move the ball, get you to your right spots, calm down Kuminga, just all that stuff is important.
Yeah. And I mean, a guy like Jordan misses him too. Poole really misses a guy like that. Like he had so many of those guys in the second unit last year. You had Otto, you had Bielitsa, you had Andre, obviously, you had even Juan. All those guys could kind of calm things down and initiate. And they don't have any of those guys this year. So you get more games like Jordan was tonight, where he goes 0 for. I don't know exactly what he ended up, but
you get more.
You get more games like that because there's nobody to calm him down in a lot of those lineups. He's out there with a lot of kids, so it just makes his job so much harder, and he's probably not quite ready.
I have a different theory on that one. My theory is he's just not a point guard. Like no matter how, he just needs to be off ball. Like the more he dances, the worse it gets. Like I'm turning into Steve Kerr. No matter what, you just end up at the same point, which is like the solution here is to just take the ball out of his hands.
Steve Kerr was right when he wanted Brad Wanamaker to run point guard, is what I'm hearing.
All right, we don't need to relive that season. We don't need to relive that season.
But I mean that is the flip side to the equation where you're just like, I don't want to be point guard, even though the guy who's point guard is tanking the offense in the process. But it's like a little more nuance than that. But like obviously, like I've watched 500 Jordan Poole games by this point, and as have all of you, it's very clear he is best playing off ball, attacking, not dancing as much as often. And like, if you can generate lineups that allow him to do that, he's a monster.
Yeah.
He can kill anyone. And then you get into reality, which is like, he's your best ball handler. And you got to live with the fact that it generates offense that sucks half the time.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and this is just kind of a quick tangent, I think the thing that besides size, what they need to pursue most this offseason, and this is thinking ahead, but they need to pursue like more connective passers and like secondary playmakers. That's what they've really missed offensively this year. You know, they've really, really missed. Like, you go and watch games from last year or highlights. Bielitsa did so much for them, just initiating offense and like finding Gary as a cutter, setting up Poole in the right places. Juan, the same thing. You know, so like that, those are the type of guys with size who can kind of initiate offense. That's what I would look for to, if you're going to keep Poole, which I think they might. We'll see how it all shakes out this summer. You need guys who can help him initiate the offense because, like you said, Sam, he isn't a point guard. He is not a pure point guard. He is a classic combo guard, and he's really talented, but he's not a point guard.
Yeah. Well, and that's the trade-off situation. Like, I think if you were to critique the last offseason, it's like just, you know, getting fucking too high on your own BS. And
Ryan
like,
Rollins,
you know,
baby.
What?
Yeah, you know,
Ryan
but
Rollins?
it's like, you know, being an adult with the situation, we could trade off. It's like, do I want another ball handler or do I want size next to Jordan Poole?
That was the
can I get both? You know, in a perfect world, obviously you get both. Instead of just being like, we're just gonna get another 20-year-old in here and make it work because he's talented and we're light years ahead. You know,
I mean, if you want to, I can go down my list of targets for the summer. I already got it lined up.
We're not doing that right
Some
now.
George Niang action.
Oh yeah, him, Kevin Love, Dario Saric, bring them all in.
Just give Kerr all the white bigs in the league, and we'll reel off 5 more titles. I promise you.
Ryan, appreciate you.
Thank you.
Well, good evening. We got another call. We got. Whoops.
Neil, what's up, man?
It's happening, guys.
Neil, who do you want? Who you want? The Kings? You want the Suns?
Oh, I
head versus heart.
I've thought about this, and I'm coming to the realization that it's definitely the Kings. I think it's just like it's Kevin Durant. I mean, like we can say as much like we have the history. We beat him in 2016. That's great, but with this Warriors team in the first round, where Wiggins is kind of still ramping up, we're not 100% sure where he's going to be at. I'd rather go against a team that hasn't done it yet, because inexperience I think matters in these situations. So I definitely go with the Kings
and just less high level talent.
Yeah,
you know, like the Kings. Like I said, the Kings are a great story, but they can't out talent you, which the Suns can. If the Suns play well for a couple games, you're like, all right, well, there's nothing we could have done.
Let me paint the contrarian scenario, just because why not? Okay, so you play the Suns, you have to play Draymond and Looney as many minutes combined as possible. No way around the fact that like you're going to wear yourself out with that. So you put Looney on Ayton, put Draymond on KD. Draymond is uniquely qualified to offend him and make that as uncomfortable as possible. You got GP2 on Booker. Mm-hmm. And then you're still dealing with a Suns team that I don't know, Tommy, they might play you 12 minutes a game right now. Like I don't know who's their 5th best player. Sorry, I guess Damian Lee. Who's their 6th best player?
They don't play Damian Lee. They play Terrence Ross ahead of him. I cannot figure that out. Terrence Ross has been like the worst player in the NBA since being picked up by the Suns. But I don't know who it is. I really don't.
No, it's like
Torrey Craig,
Ace Wainwright.
Yeah.
You know,
Jock Landale,
Cameron Payne. Like I could paint a scenario without Wiggins where it works. Like I think with a fully locked in Wiggins, it's actually a pretty easy matchup for the Warriors because
5 or 6 games.
Yeah, because like you have 2 elite defenders who match up on Booker and KD, who both are very easy to get baited into going 1-on-1, and you get the best help defender in the league, plus a bunch of other good players. I still think they can win without Wiggins, though. I'll put it that way.
Funny enough, it actually plays into the Suns. It plays into the Warriors' favor a little bit that they play KD at the 4 basically, because now it's the natural matchup for Draymond, right? Like you're not really mixing and matching to get Draymond on KD. If KD's the 3 and you have 2 guys bigger than KD in the lineup.
Well,
like
I mean, if they had Wiggins, they would have
of course
Draymond on like Ish Wainwright or Terrence Ross or whoever it is playing like this, playing the free safety role and like daring that guy to hit 6 threes, right?
You could put Draymond on CP2 and have Steph be the roamer. I mean, you could do it either way.
True.
But you have a little bit more flexibility, obviously, with Wiggins. I mean, on both ends. That's really the big deal with getting Wiggins back. It just gives you more flexibility. You can just do a little bit more on both sides of the floor.
Sure, having more good players gives you more options. It's not a very complicated concept at the high level there. I don't know. I do think like ultimately it's hard to suggest that, going for that is beneficial to, playing a team where you don't need Wiggins to play a role at all. Like, I think they can beat the Kings with Wiggins not playing, honestly. No matter how disgusting tonight was, I don't think they need Wiggins because they don't have a wing scorer where you're like, I just need a wing defender, So, Let's move forward. Neil, appreciate you, bro.
Thanks, Neil.
Sean, what's up, my man?
Hey, what's up? I was just calling in to just ask you guys, been watching like closely all these like playoff teams that are kind of just like scrunched up in the like from the 5 to like 10 spot, and like a common trend that I'm noticing, like all these teams are like pushing their chips in the middle in terms of like, we have to win this. And like, you're seeing a lot of teams like Phoenix yesterday struggle against like the Jokic-less and MPJ-less and Jamal Murray less Nuggets. And then you see like the Lakers are like struggling till the very end with like the Suns without Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. I don't know if you guys talked about this, but like, why do you think that's even with us? Like tonight, like we looked horrible in some spurts and we gave up a 16-point lead and like they cut it to like 2, but then like we kind of snatched it back. But like, like it wasn't pretty by any means. And but in the end, the result was there. Why do you think this is happening? Is there like just overall in the NBA, like what's going on where like this is where Bruce Brown is looking like a number 1 option? Like, yeah, I just want to ask you guys that.
I think anytime you get down to a single game scenario, anything funny can happen. And I think we're in that part of the season where, it's easy to look at an opponent and then just the other team gets a free swing. So I think that's part of it. But Tommy, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think the baseline of talent is pretty high in the NBA now. Like even the guys the Kings were throwing out there tonight, they missed a lot of shots, but like on the right night, those guys can beat you. And the same thing with Bruce Brown the other night in Phoenix. Like that can happen. And also all the pressure was on the Warriors tonight. All the pressure was on the Lakers tonight. Those other teams were playing for nothing. So you have guys on the teams that are sitting a lot of guys. You have backups kind of playing for their career and playing for their next contract. So they're playing hard and they're motivated and they're playing with a ton of energy. And the other team, the team that's trying to make the playoffs, has all the pressure on them. So I think it's kind of natural. It's cliche, but it's kind of natural to get a little bit tight in those scenarios. And I think you definitely saw that with the Lakers tonight. The Warriors just kind of played with their food. That game was never really in doubt in my mind. It got a little bit scary in a few scenarios there, but it was never like, it didn't feel like the Spurs game where like they were down for 3 quarters, right? That's what the Lakers game was tonight. They were down for 3 quarters. But tonight the Warriors were in control of that game the whole time, but there was definitely more pressure on the Warriors. The Suns or the Kings have their seeding locked up. They're top 3. So they're playing carefree. Warriors aren't.
So just like one last question was like about that is like, okay, so the Warriors, like that was really scary against the Spurs, what we saw, like how they were like
right.
messing around. Like next year, like obviously we still have this year to play out, but like next year, like is there like a roster change that needs to be made or like a mental change that needs to be made to like prevent you losing twice to like Detroit, twice to Orlando or those and like struggling in these type of games? Like what do you guys think that problem is? Is it like we need the older players are just getting like out athleticized, or is this like a roster issue, or is this a mental problem, or is it a little bit of both?
I'll kick this to Tommy. I know what he's going to say. So
I think you need to build a more stable roster around the older guys. I think there's a lot of talent on this year's roster, but talent, it doesn't really mean anything until it fulfills, right? There's a lot of kind of high variance players where like Kuminga can look amazing some nights, and then other nights you're like, oh man, can he even be on the floor tonight? Same with Poole, same with a lot of Moody. I mean, Moody was amazing the other night against OKC, and tonight he played 5 minutes. It's like, okay, get him off the floor. You need more of those stable veteran types, and Otto Porter, Nemanja Bjelica, Juan Toscano Anderson, even though they're not as talented as some of the young guys. You need guys like that on nights where Clay doesn't have it, Steph doesn't have it, and they do look a little bit old for sure. They are old. Like there's no denying that. You need those stable guys who can come in like more like a Looney, a different version of a Looney, right? You need more guys like that on the roster than you do just kind of random talent swings. You know, I want to keep Kuminga, I want to keep Poole, I want to keep these guys on the team, but you need to build up the back end of the roster better. Huh?
Yeah.
Dude, I love. Don't get me started on Baldwin. He's going to be
but
top,
I mean, to your point, the way to make Baldwin and Kuminga look better is to put, maybe a Damian Lee around them, a couple more veterans around them. So it comes down to roster balance. I think they realized that midseason when they traded James Wiseman.
Yep.
And you know that's just one move, but it's easier to sustain that stuff if you have a more balanced roster. So
and you see the dividends with GP2 tonight. You know, Poole didn't have it, and that's going to happen. But other times you really didn't. You had Dante, but you had GP2 to go to tonight when Poole didn't have it, and he stabilized everything. He defends, and he can make an open shot, and he's always going to do the smart things on both ends of the floor.
Ishan, appreciate you, my man.
Thanks,
have a great
Ishan.
evening. All right, we're getting out of here. Tommy, I appreciate you.
Thanks,
have
man.
a great evening.
Yep. It's fun. Later.